Okay, so I want you to picture something. It's a classic image, right?
Mm.
You have this tiny, hard seed in the palm of your hand. It weighs, well, basically nothing.
Right.
You put it in the dirt, you water it, you wait a few years. And suddenly, you're standing next to an oak tree that weighs, what, 5,000 pounds?
Oh, easily. Depending on the age, it could be way, way more.
So here's the mystery. And honestly, it's one of those things that keeps me up at night if I think about it too much. Where did all of that mass come from?
It is the ultimate magic trick of nature.
It is, right. Because the tree didn't, eat a hamburger. It didn't go out for pizza. And as we were looking through the notes for this deep dive, it turns out it didn't even really eat the dirt.
No. I mean, if trees ate dirt, there would be a massive hole in the ground around every single tree, and that just doesn't happen. The soil level stays pretty much the same.
Exactly. So today we are doing a deep dive into the invisible machinery of life. We're looking at a stack of notes from Mr. Jones's life science class on matter and energy in organisms.
A great topic.
Yeah, we've got lab reports on aquatic plants, diagrams of cells, and some chemistry models that, frankly, look a little intimidating at first glance.
They do look intimidating, but the story they tell is actually, it's very elegant. It's about how the universe just recycles itself.
Our mission today is to figure out how the world breathes and eats. We're going to trace this invisible cycle that keeps everything from a blade of grass to, well, to you alive. And we're going to answer that driving question from Mr. Jones's material. How does a giant tree grow from thin air?
Well, to solve the tree mystery, we have to stop looking at trees as just, scenery. We have to start looking at them as complex chemical factories. But before we get to the factory floor, we need to agree on what we're building with.
Okay.
We need to talk about matter.
Okay. Matter. It's one of those words that feels incredibly obvious until you actually have to define it. I feel like if someone stopped me on the street and asked, what is matter? I'd just, point at a rock and say, that.
And you wouldn't be wrong, but the scientific definition is a bit broader. Matter is just anything that has mass and takes up space.
So the table, this microphone, the coffee cup, that's the easy stuff.
Yes, but it also includes things you might not immediately think of as heavy.
Yeah.
Air is matter. The water vapor you can't see is matter. And you are definitely matter.
I have been told I take up space. Yeah, usually on the subway.
We all do. But chemically speaking, looking at the breakdown in these notes, you're mostly water, about 70%. But the rest of you, the really interesting stuff, is made of these very large molecules.
Right.
And all of that matter, whether it's a rock or a bacterium or a human brain, is built out of the same basic kit of parts, atoms.
The Lego analogy. It popped up in the research here, and I usually hate metaphors because they break down. But this one actually seems to hold up really well.
It works perfectly. Imagine atoms are Legos. You can build a castle, smash it apart, and then build a spaceship with the same pieces.
You didn't create new plastic blocks.
Yep. You just rearrange them. And that is a fundamental rule of the universe. The law of conservation of matter.
So just to be clear, we never actually make anything new. We're just sort of reshuffling the deck.
Precisely. In a chemical reaction, atoms are just playing musical chairs. They're never created or destroyed in these biological processes. They just switch teams.
There was a specific model in the source material that illustrated this so well. It showed a reaction between methane and oxygen. I think walking through that helps visualize the Lego idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So try to visualize this. On the left side, the ingredients or reactants, you have methane, which is CH4, and oxygen O2.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the little model, you can count the atoms. You got 1 carbon, 4 hydrogens, and some oxygen atoms.
So we have our pile of bricks. Then a spark happens.
Yeah.
The methane burns.
The bonds break, the atoms scramble around. And on the right side, the products, you get carbon dioxide and water. But here's the kicker, and this is what Mr. Jones's notes really hit on. If you count the atoms again on that after side.
It's the same count. 1 carbon, 4 hydrogens. They're just attached to different partners now.
Exactly. Nothing was lost. It just changed its form.
Which implies something kind of profound, doesn't it? It means we're all made of recycled parts.
100%. We're temporary structures built from ancient materials. And the VIP of these materials, the one element that life is absolutely obsessed with, is carbon.
Why carbon? Why not? I don't know, neon. Or iron.
Carbon is the Swiss Army knife of the elements. It really comes down to chemistry. Carbon has 4 hands, 4 bonding sites.
Okay.
It can grab onto 4 other atoms at once. This allows it to form these long, complex chains, rings, sheets. It is the backbone of sugars, fats, proteins, all the complicated stuff that makes life possible. If you want complexity, you need carbon.
Okay, so carbon is the backbone. But reading through this, I got stuck on a section about the Carboniferous period. I honestly thought that was just a band name at first.
Oh, it's very real. About 300 million years ago.
This is the time travel portion of our deep dive. So paint the picture for us. What did the world look like back then?
Imagine Europe and North America, but just erase all the cities. Instead, it's just massive, hot, swampy forests. Giant ferns, these weird primitive trees, dragonflies the size of hawks.
That sounds terrifying,
Yeah.
but productive.
Right.
And when those plants died, they didn't just rot away like they do in a forest today.
Right. Because it was so swampy, they just sank into the mud. They were cut off from oxygen. So they didn't decompose fully. They just sat there. Over millions of years, dirt and rock piled on top. The pressure built up, the heat rose, and that plant matter, it cooked
And it transformed.
into coal.
This is the part that blows my mind. When we hold a lump of coal, we're holding the fossilized remains of a fern that lived 300 million years ago.
And even more importantly, you're holding the energy that fern collected from the sun.
So when we burn coal to make electricity, we are literally releasing ancient sunlight.
Ancient sunlight and ancient atoms. We are putting that carbon, which has been locked underground for eons, right back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. It's the ultimate example of that cycle we talked about. The matter didn't disappear, it just waited.
Okay, so we've got carbon cycling through history. It goes from the air to a fern to a coal seam, and then we burn it and send it back to the air. But let's bring it back to the present day and back to my tree mystery.
The mystery of the massive weight.
Right. We know the tree is made of carbon. We know it doesn't eat coal. So where does a modern tree get its carbon from?
It pulls it right out of thin air, literally.
I feel like even though we learned this in school, it is still so counterintuitive. The solid wood of a table, that heavy knock-your-knuckles-on-it wood, is mostly made of a gas.
It is. The structural integrity of a giant redwood comes from carbon that was just floating around as an invisible gas, and the process that does it is photosynthesis. You can think of this as the kitchen of the plant.
Okay, so let's break down the recipe. If I'm a plant and I want to bake some plant stuff, what do I need to go shopping for?
You need 3 main ingredients. First, you need carbon dioxide, CO, 2 from the air, that provides the carbon atoms, the bricks.
Okay.
Second, you need water, H2O, from the soil. And third, you need an energy source to run the oven.
Sunlight.
Sunlight. Now, this all happens inside the leaves. You know how plants are green?
Because of chlorophyll. That's the classic answer from school.
Right. And chlorophyll is a pigment found inside these little structures called chloroplasts. Think of chloroplasts as the solar panels. They capture that light energy, but they don't just hold it. They use it to do some chemical violence.
Chemical violence, I like that.
Well, breaking bonds takes force. The chloroplast uses that solar energy to shatter the molecules. They take the water and the carbon dioxide, break those chemical bonds, smash the Legos apart, and then, using that same energy, they snap them back together in a new arrangement.
And that new arrangement is sugar.
Glucose, specifically, C6H12O6. That glucose is the food. It's the building block. The plant uses that sugar to build its leaves, its stem, its roots. It turns gas and water into solid wood.
And there's a byproduct, right? Like exhaust from a car.
Yes, but luckily for us, the exhaust is oxygen, O2.
I always find it funny that the thing we need most to survive oxygen is basically plant trash.
It is. The plant doesn't want it, it releases it just to get rid of it. But for the plant, the gold is the glucose. That's what holds the energy.
Now, here's a question that came up in the notes. What if the plant has a really good day, sun is blazing, plenty of water, it makes way more sugar than it can use right away? Does it just stop?
No, plants are hoarders. They take those glucose molecules and they chain them together into these long, complicated strings. We call those strings starch.
Starch, so like a potato.
Exactly. A sweet potato is just a plant root where the plant decided to store all its extra solar energy for a rainy day. Asparagus, that's just a stem storing energy.
So when I eat a potato, I'm basically eating a battery made of sunlight.
You are unlocking stored solar energy, yes. That is a perfect way to think about it.
Okay, so that's the theory. But Mr. Jones's class didn't just take this on faith. They actually had to prove it in the lab.
Yeah.
There was a section here called Janelle's investigation.
Yes, this is a classic experiment. It uses an aquatic plant called Elodia.
It looks kind of like seaweed.
Yeah, that's a good description. It lives underwater. Now, the problem with photosynthesis is that you can't see the gases moving. You can't see the CO2 going in.
Right.
So Janelle used a kind of chemical detective tool called bromothymol blue.
Bromothymol blue. Try saying that 5 times fast. So this is where the chemistry gets a little tricky. How does this blue stuff actually work?
It's an indicator. It changes color based on acidity. And here's the rule you need to know. When carbon dioxide dissolves in water, it actually creates a weak acid called carbonic acid.
Okay, so more CO2 means more acid.
Exactly. And bromothymol blue turns yellow in the presence of acid. So yellow means high CO2. If the CO2 goes away, the water becomes less acidic and it turns back to blue.
Got it. Yellow is high CO2. Blue is low CO2.
So, step 1 of the experiment. Janelle takes a beaker of water and blows bubbles into it with a straw.
Why? Just for fun.
No, think about what we exhale.
Yeah.
We breathe out carbon dioxide.
Right, of course.
By blowing into the water, she's loading it up with CO2, she's creating that carbonic acid, and sure enough, the water turns yellow.
Okay, so now we have yellow water full of CO2. She drops the Elodia plant in there and sticks it under a bright light.
And she waits 24 hours. When she comes back, the water isn't yellow anymore, it's turned back to blue.
Okay, let's play detective here. If it turned blue, that means the acid is gone, which means the CO2 is gone.
Precisely. The plant ate it. It absorbed the carbon dioxide from the water to perform photosynthesis. It's hard proof that the plant was taking in matter from its environment.
And there was one other clue she saw, right?
Tiny bubbles forming on the leaves of the plant.
The oxygen exhaust.
Exactly. So in one single jar, you see the input CO2 disappearing and the output oxygen appearing. It makes the invisible completely visible.
That is pretty cool. But we're missing half the story, aren't we? We've talked about how plants make the food. But unless you're a solar-powered human, which would be convenient, we don't do photosynthesis.
No, we are consumers. We are on the other side of the equation. We eat the plant.
Yeah.
Or we eat the animal that eat the plant.
So how do we get the energy out?
Yeah.
Because I can eat a potato, but I don't feel like I have a nuclear reactor in my stomach.
You basically do, though. This process is called cellular respiration. And don't let the name fool you. It's not just breathing. It happens deep inside your individual cells.
The notes describe it as photosynthesis in reverse.
That is the absolute best way to think about it.
Yeah.
In photosynthesis, we combine CO2 and water to make sugar and oxygen. In cellular respiration, we take sugar from our food and oxygen from breathing, and we smash them together.
We break the bonds again.
And when you break those bonds, you release the energy that was holding them together. That energy is what powers your heartbeat, your brain synapses, your muscles.
And the waste products from that.
Carbon dioxide and water.
Which is exactly what we breathe out. It really is a perfect mirror image.
And this all happens in a very specific part of the cell, the mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah.
I think that is the only thing I remember from 7th grade biology. It is just burned into my brain.
It's a meme for a reason. But looking at these diagrams from Mr. Jones's class, there's a detail about the mitochondria that I think is really cool and often overlooked. It's not just a bean shape. It has an inner membrane that's folded back on itself over and over again, like a crumpled up piece of paper inside a bag.
Why the folds? Does it just need to fit in?
It's all about surface area. Chemical reactions happen on surfaces. By folding that membrane, the mitochondria packs a massive amount of surface area into a tiny space. It allows your cells to have thousands of little power plants running simultaneously along all those folds.
That explains the exercise connection in the text.
Right. When you run, your muscle cells are just burning through sugar rapidly. They need to run this reaction faster to keep your legs moving.
So they scream at the brain, send more oxygen.
Exactly. You breathe heavier to get oxygen in, to break the sugar, and to get the carbon dioxide out. It's a direct supply and demand chain from your lungs to that folded membrane in your cells.
Now, here's a curveball that I did not see coming in the research. The notes say, plants do this too.
They do. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in biology. People think plants do photosynthesis, animals do respiration.
But plants are alive. They have to grow.
Right. Their cells need energy to do work, too. They need to actively pump water up their stems against gravity. They need to grow roots through hard soil. That takes metabolic energy.
But they make their own food.
They make it, but they still have to eat it to get the energy out. During the day, they make a surplus of sugar. But at night, when there's no sun, They switch modes. They break down that starch they stored using oxygen to release energy so they can keep staying alive in the dark.
So even plants need to breathe oxygen.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you put a plant in a vacuum with no oxygen in the dark, it would die just like an animal would.
That really changes how I look at my houseplants. So let's zoom out and just look at the whole picture. We have these two massive processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration.
And they fit together like perfect puzzle pieces.
They are a closed loop. Let's just trace it. The plant breathes out oxygen.
Which the animal breathes in.
The animal eats the sugar the plant made,
And burns it for energy.
and the animal breathes out carbon dioxide.
Which the plant then breathes in to make more sugar.
It's just elegant. And it brings us all the way back to the beginning. The law of conservation of matter. No new atoms are entering this system.
That is the big takeaway. The carbon atom that is currently part of a protein in your bicep.
That atom could have been just floating in the air last year.
Yes. And before that, maybe it was part of a blade of grass, and 300 million years ago, maybe it was in that swamp fern we were talking about.
We are borrowing the atoms.
We are temporary vessels for matter that has been cycling for eons. Life is just the constant rearrangement of this matter, driven by the flow of energy from the sun.
It makes you feel very connected, doesn't it? We aren't separate from nature. We're literally trading breath with the trees in the park.
We literally are. You exhale what they need, they exhale what you need.
Well, that is a lot to digest, pun fully intended. We've gone from ancient swamps to the microscopic folds of the mitochondria. We have solved the mystery of the growing tree.
It's built from air and sunshine.
I want to leave you with a thought to chew on next time you are having a meal. When you take a bite of food, you aren't just eating stuff. You are eating energy that traveled 93 million miles from the sun, was captured by a chloroplast, stored in a chemical bond, and is now being released just to power your thoughts.
And the breath you just exhaled while listening to this, that carbon dioxide is now drifting away, and by tomorrow morning, it might be the starting brick for a new leaf on the tree right outside your window. The cycle never, ever stops.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Keep asking questions, keep wondering where things come from, and thanks to Mr. Jones's class for the inspiration.
See you next time.